Cookie here. It's the Pat and JT podcast.
Pat and JT podcast.
Okay, it's...
Okay.
That's what you want to do on our podcast, is beef with millennials?
Well, no, I mean, I just wanted to
we could
mention...
do that. This is Pat Stibbs, by the way, on the Spot Productions. He's a box
doing?
office from our show. So you want to just jump right in. Your beef with millennials.
Okay,
Let's hear. This should be good.
Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, first of all, how old are millennials? What's the age group
Okay,
of
I'm going to
millennials?
give it
She's
to you
gonna
right
Google
now.
that.
That's what I'm
And
just saying.
there are some of them that are older than you would think. Like I think that just like Gen Xers are younger
They were
than you would
born
think.
81 to 96.
Okay, so
That's
what's...
a huge range.
That's right, yeah.
But all of them are. You know, when
Yeah.
you think about even like the boomers were like in the 40-something to 64 or something, 49 to 64. I don't know. You know, it's like 60-something to 80-something is
Okay.
the next generation. So
Yeah, it's true.
It's a big gap. But so 1996, so 24 would be on the 20.
You don't look at me for math.
23 on the young side.
23 on the young side. Okay.
81 would put them over 30.
And then
the
so
30s.
right bubbling under the millennials would be the Gen Y.
Yes. So
And they
millennials are Generation Y,
Oh, they are. Okay.
then Generation Z.
Z. Okay.
Z.
So this is somewhere in that ZY. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. Okay, so this is maybe I'm just showing my baby boomer age. Okay. So we were out of town. Our son lives in Kansas City, so we came back, and my oldest daughter had kind of helped let the animals out when we were gone. So as a favor, we drive back into town, and I say, Kathleen, I want to bring you a malt because she loves Goodrich malts, right?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Man?
By gosh. So her and her boyfriend, I'm like, I'm gonna get you both the chocolate malt. So we pull up to the Subway / Goodrich because Goodriches don't exist anymore on their own. They're all in with Subway. So I go through the drive-thru. Very young girl, and very nice girl because I've been in there before, and she's very nice, but she looks extremely young.
Okay.
Like maybe even teenage young.
Generation Z would be about 7 to 22 right now.
Okay, so this is maybe
Okay?
she's a
So
Gen
see,
Z.
that's a big gap,
That is
right?
big. Yeah, right.
And just to go back real quick, Generation X is 39 to 54.
Heyo.
Boomers are 55 to 73.
Okay. So anyway,
Okay.
so
It's a big
It is a
range.
big gap.
Yeah.
So I pull up and I go to the drive-thru and I said, "Can I get 2 medium chocolate malts?" Okay, great. Come through the window, right? So as I'm driving away, first of all, I hear her say, "Can someone show me how to make these?" Like
What?
the microphone was not supposed to. Yeah.
Well,
So
maybe it's her first day.
No, it's not, Jill.
Maybe it's
So
her first day. First malt. That can't be
So
a Goodrich. That's got to be the mainstay, right?
So
Malts.
So I go to the window and my wife's next to me. My daughter is in the back seat, who's so non-confrontational because most of these kids are non-confrontational, right? They, God forbid, you do anything to confront anybody, they freak out.
Don't offend anybody.
Exactly. So I pull up to the drive-thru and we're waiting, and so finally she comes to the window and she goes, "Do you want malt powder in those?" And I said, "Yes, please."
It's a malt.
So the
That's the name.
The window closes, and I look at my wife, and I'm like, "Isn't a malt without malt powder just a shake?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Yeah, but that's okay." So I go, "Okay, well." So I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden it dawns on me. What do you bet this chick makes these with chocolate ice cream?
No
Now,
doubt. No doubt.
A
Oh,
malt.
for sure she did.
So she comes, finally, I think what amounted to 3 days later, she comes to the window. We've already celebrated birthdays in the car and everything. She comes back to the window, and I said, "Did you happen to make those with chocolate ice cream?" And this look comes on her face like I just told her dog died. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Yeah." I go, a chocolate malt, but just FYI, is not chocolate ice cream. It's vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup and powder.
There's a difference.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, I made these with chocolate ice cream." I said, "Well, my daughter is like, she likes a real chocolate malt. I'm sorry, but can you remake those again?" And so I see my daughter in the back. I don't see it, but I can
Is she
almost
mortified
feel
or
it.
she anger?
I can almost feel the heat.
Embarrassment or anger that it was made the wrong way?
She was embarrassed that I'm confronting.
Sure.
And I'm not even confronting the girl. I'm just bringing it to her attention.
To help her.
So she says to me, "Well, maybe next time you should say that." Bing! Then.
Really?
And I said, "Listen to me."
And now your daughter's like,
And now
literally
my
passed
daughter's crying in the. I'm sure crying in the
You
back.
see her
seat.
running down the street.
Exactly. And I said, listen to me. A chocolate malt. I go, maybe this is just the poor training you had. But a chocolate malt is vanilla ice cream and chocolate syrup and malted milk. Now, maybe you, young lady, should ask somebody ahead of time. If you don't know how to make the malt, why don't you ask them if they want vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream?
Yeah.
And then she just then of course she's also in the same age group my daughter is. So I'm getting both sides, the back seat and the window, the steam and the. So then,
How dare you?
And then, okay, so it gets better. So anyway, she finally comes back another 3 days later. And then she's very apologetic, and I'm like, listen, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. So my daughter in the back seat, she's like, what is the big difference, Dad? I said, it's a lot different. So as we're leaving, I text my oldest daughter and said, sorry. Took a little longer. They made him with chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla. I apologize. She texts back, what's wrong with chocolate ice cream?
Oh my God.
Really?
Oh my God.
I'm like, no!
Where have I failed?
What? God, what did I do?
You failed your children.
Anyway,
you failed your children.
Enough of.
That's like a staple of that's how you just know. I've never worked food service ever, and I know that.
I know. Everybody knows it, Pat.
Everybody knows it.
Everybody knows that. But you know
Wow.
what? What can you say?
Is there still a Goodrich, speaking of which, down on like 72nd and Center area? Wasn't there one down there for a while? Or somewhere
There
around
might have been. There's one
72nd north of there.
by itself, like a standalone one.
north
Because there's one on this subway out here by the water tower in Millard. There's
yeah,
one in
it
there.
used to be one, I think, many moons ago.
There's
but-
quite a few subways. Like there's one on 76th and Pacific.
Maybe it's closer to that.
Could be that.
It could have been closer to that. I think that
but
would
there
that would
are-
be yes. I think that is
That's
exactly
probably
it.
what you're thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause-
76 and
yeah.
Pacific. Yeah.
Okay, that would be it.
And they're all in with subways, at least in this area. There are no
Yeah.
more freestanding Goodrich dairy.
Are there still any Baskin Robbins?
You know what? Evidently, someone said to me that, yes, someone is opening a Baskin Robbins up in Omaha.
They went away.
They went away because they got bought out by another chain who totally ran the brand into the ground. And now the former Baskin Robbins people,
Been down that road.
yeah,
Right.
we all know what that's like.
Still got dirt in my teeth.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
I would never, as a person that works at a restaurant or like that, the woman, it's the girl. Especially, you said she doesn't. That age group doesn't like confrontation.
Right.
For her to say you should maybe say that next time,
Right.
that's a very confrontational thing to say.
Exactly. Wrong
So they
thing.
like confronting, they like pitching, they don't like catching.
That's, you know what? That's exactly
That's
it.
what it is. They like throwing the confrontation.
It's kind of like politics. That's how some people are in politics. They love just throwing it out there, but
Yes.
someone throws it at them and they just freak the hell out.
They don't know how to they don't know how to handle, and I think it's a product of blah. This is from every talking point from every talking. So this is my Pat's take rehashed 57,000 times. But it's from the kids growing up that everybody gets a trophy.
Yep.
Nobody learns to
Yep.
lose, and so now they're at Subway, and
Yeah.
you tell them something different, and they don't like that.
Yeah,
Right.
which is weird because I had to go back and give that girl a participation trophy for making the malt. I never should have done that,
Yeah.
Pat.
Did you have a graduation sort of ceremony for her from second grade into third grade?
Oh my God.
Yay!
Don't make me. Oh my God, my eyes can't roll any harder.
I know.
It was, so it was the typical old baby boomer versus the young Gen Z, Y, X, whatever the hell she was. I don't know.
Probably Z.
I would say
Probably
that.
Z. Younger, yeah. I'll go with that.
Is there a Gen Stupid, or is that in my mind?
I think it's coming.
I think there's a little bit of Gen Stupid from in every one.
Well,
Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit sprinkled in across the board, but
Yeah.
Right.
I think we might see.
And listen, not that.
Yeah.
Listen, we all know baby boomers can be pretty dumb too. We've all known
Like you said, every age group. I mean, there's a little bit
Absolutely.
sprinkled in across the board.
Yep.
And a little mix of everybody.
peppered in
there.
there.
So, yeah.
Thank God us
absolutely.
three are perfect.
That's
Right.
right.
I mean,
absolutely nothing wrong
because
with
we're
us.
the only ones that can talk about other people.
Oh, all the time. That's
Anyway.
it. All right. So, God, I don't even know where to start here. I guess we haven't had you in forever.
It's been a long time.
And you just self-describe. Tell us about Mr. Stibbs.
Well, you know what? I born and raised in Omaha, was in radio forever and ever and ever. And finally, 25 years into my radio career, I was just sort of tired of all the corporate media coming in and buying out all the family-owned stations that we all used to work for.
About what year was that?
When I left radio,
Yeah.
2000 and actually 2010, because I was at Clear Channel Radio last, and then they got into all kinds of financial issues, and even though I still had a job there, my income was just slashed to crap.
Well, and you're right about the corporate thing, because everything started changing in the mid 90s was when the federal laws changed, and everything went to hell, and
in a handbasket,
right? And so now you have no more farm teams. You don't have, and this I know this is kind of in the radio box, so to speak, but the small town radio stations would have those people coming up through the ranks, you know, and people learning the craft in those small town stations. I was lucky; I got to work in Hastings for a while.
Oh, see, that's great,
and that was heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and it was grabbing victory from the jaws of defeat, because that station was like so far into red tape when we got it, and it was just you had to do everything.
Right. Which is such a
everything.
great learning experience.
It was awesome.
I mean, so like if you're going to own a restaurant, they suggest you go wash dishes, you cook, you learn every aspect of the restaurant. So the same thing with the radio station. You learn every aspect of it.
And Pat and I were lucky because we both. Did you ever work for Mitchell? Were you at Mitchell?
No, Mitchell actually is the one that. Oh, I don't want to tell stories. Anyway, about in the mid 90s, there was a license that was up for grabs in Hastings for an FM,
and the Mitchell company bought it.
When that change in the federal laws allowed him to step in and snatch it from us.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
No hard feelings. It's cool. Whatever.
Yeah. But I just
anyway.
Well, I just remember when working for and we used to make fun of Clear Channel, the evil Empire, which is what they were called. And I just remember I'd be in these meetings, and the sales manager who I probably shouldn't name, but she was an idiot, and I remember she would have contests to see who could charge clients the highest rates.
Charge up, right? Yeah.
And I would just sit there and I'd look at all my fellow salespeople like bobblehead dolls, just sitting there thinking that this was okay.
Yeah.
Let's have a contest to see how bad we can screw our clients.
Right.
That's what it was.
It doesn't. It's crazy.
So I thought now's the time I need to kind of do what I love to do, and that's writing and producing commercials and doing my screenplays and working with clients and having fun with guys like you.
I love it. That's awesome.
It's now going on 10 years of doing this now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk. We've had some unfortunate demises, haven't we?
I mean, because your background's in music.
Music,
you're
movies.
Like, if you follow Stibbs on Facebook in particular, a lot of music stuff comes in your timeline. That's for sure. And music trivia. Will Sterrett, Will Sterrett too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like that too.
Is he?
It's like out of nowhere he'll drop a dime on you. Like, what the heck? I didn't know that. What are you talking about? And goodness. So recently we've seen a couple of super famous guys pass away.
Exactly. We had Eddie Money, who was, just if you ever had a chance to meet Eddie Money, and we did meet him because at Sweet 98 we brought Eddie Money in the 90s.
That was my first concert there.
Was that your first one at Piggy Park?
Yep. And I remember I remember him saying something that just a couple days ago. I don't think I've told you this yet. That was backed up on social media for a coworker of ours at the time, Michael. Michael Steele, Adam Thunder. I worked with him at night. And he and Eddie became friends over the years, and they were really good friends. And he said a story about him and how Eddie would always grab him by the neck and say, thanks for loving the money man or something like that. And I'm like, and I remember him getting up on stage. And Omaha loves the money man.
Loves the money man.
Yeah.
And he was not only a solid performer, but he was just one of those, he was laid back. He was a good guy. He didn't let little stupid stuff get to him like some artists freak out over the little thing.
Didn't live in the bubble.
Oh, no.
Right?
I mean, and the thing is about Eddie Money is he was born Edward Mahoney, and he was a cop. And his whole family were cops. His grandfather, his father, I believe his brothers. And he finally, I think, went to his dad one day and said, I don't want to be a cop. I want to be a musician. And you can imagine what every dad would say.
What?
You what?
What's that?
This steady gig you've got with benefits, and you want to just throw that away to go sing rock and roll? Are you kidding? But he knew what he wanted to do. And so he changed his name professionally to Eddie Money. And
perfect.
He had his first hit in the late 70s, like Baby Hold On, I think was his first hit. But, he had been performing in clubs before that for a while. It was not an overnight success like I heard some people online say, "Oh, it was an overnight success." No, it wasn't. It's rarely an overnight success.
There's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
You know what? When you're working in clubs, and you're getting paid, probably beer money, and you've got 20 people in the audience, and half of them are drunk. And, I think this is why Eddie was so laid back when he made it big, because he remembered what it was like starting out. And when you go through that crap, nothing phases you.
Right.
Not even Chuck, our engineer, stalking you.
It doesn't. It does not at all.
Oh, wait, that was Debbie Gibson. Yeah. Sorry, that was another.
Hi, Debbie.
Oh, my God. Was it Debbie Gibson you had to pick up at the airport?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
In the van, yeah.
Did you pick up Debbie Gibson?
Uh-huh. Yep. And I still to this day remember the name of that she went on under at the hotel. It was like such a unique name.
Really?
But she checked it, and it was her manager's name flip-flopped. It was Huntley Biggs was the name.
No kidding?
Yeah, and I thought I was the coolest ever.
I just remember backstage we were setting up the stuff, and Debbie was in for her air check, for her sound check.
Sound check, yeah.
And so we're talking, a bunch of us, and I see her walk toward me. She goes, "Excuse me, can you help me?" I said, "What's up?" She goes, "There's a man who's following me, and I'm really nervous about this." And I look over, and it's Chuck, our engineer.
Yeah. Chuck likes the ladies.
And evidently Chuck, everywhere she'd go, he was just like following her and staring at her. And she was freaking the hell out.
I bet.
Yeah.
So I said...
This was way before me, too.
She goes...
Way before. Yeah.
She goes, "Do you know him?" I said, "Yeah, let me talk to him." So
John's got this.
I went up to Chuck and said, "Chuck, hey, man, listen, you gotta... you got to leave her alone, man."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew Chuck. He was a harmless guy, but
Right.
Debbie didn't know that.
No.
Right.
So poor Chuck had to bow his head and go back and sit in. Anyway, so Debbie was fine. But so Eddie Money was a great guy. Back on track.
Yeah, that's okay. I did that, sorry.
And, the sad thing is he had some health issues earlier this year. He had some bad heart issues. And so he went in for his heart earlier in the year, and then he found out he had to have some heart surgery. So when they went in and did follow-ups and did x-rays, that's when they found he had stage 4 esophageal cancer. So that's when he canceled his summer tour. Mm-hmm. But he had told his fans that he was hoping to just take 3 months off and get treated for the esophageal, because he could still sing. That's what people didn't realize. He could still sing.
That's crazy, because it was asymptomatic.
So,
right. So there was no sign of any problem.
No. Wow.
Until they went in. That's when they discovered. It's like, holy, are you kidding?
Stage 4.
Awful.
So they were hoping to treat it. And even though it was stage 4, and by the way, I've known people that have lived with stage 4 esophageal cancer actually for a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately, I think it's going to catch up with you down the road. But I think he was hoping if he got treatment, went in and did whatever they do, chemo, radiation, that he could then get healed and then go back on the road. Well, what happened was he developed pneumonia, and that's what killed him. It was actually not the esophageal cancer. He went in again for heart surgery, and during surgery, or right around there, he developed pneumonia. Now, when you're 70 years old and you get pneumonia, I mean, pneumonia is dangerous no matter how old you are.
Right.
When you're 70, it
compromised.
Yeah. It's deadly, and actually, that's what did it. So,
yeah.
But what a great guy. Anybody, of course, everybody, as soon as he died, I did the same thing. I grabbed my old Eddie Money's Greatest Hits CD, and you sit there and go, wow, you forget how many hits the guy had.
Yeah. That's the case with so many artists.
Exactly.
It's just you all of a sudden you're like, wow.
Yeah. So
and just love going down that little wormhole.
So fortunately for us, Eddie Mahoney didn't want to be a cop.
Yeah.
And because of that, we had some great songs from Eddie Money.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Positive guy.
And then just this past week, of course, what a shock, Ric Ocasek from the Cars.
And I just heard this morning they said it was heart issues.
Well, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking. I don't know if they've done. Did they do?
I just heard it on the news on the way in, saying that it was a heart attack or heart failure or something related.
Right. And Ric Ocasek was 75, so he was 5 years older.
I thought he was the same age.
No, he was actually 5 years older. It was online. People were thinking that he was the same age of Eddie Money, but Ric Ocasek was actually 75.
Wow. So Ric Ocasek, cause of death.
And they did not when his ex-wife found him. He was married to that Paula, that Russian model, for like 28 years, and they separated last year. In fact, when I first heard he was dead and they didn't suspect foul play, my morbidity thought, God, maybe he just, that he was devastated that his wife left after almost 30 years. Maybe he just kind of checked out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case. I think it was his heart, but I don't know if they've actually verified that.
They did. It said, according to the autopsy report was released, said that he died of cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
A specific cause of death was listed as hypertensive and oh wow, big word,
Heart attack.
cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
basically,
build
heart
up a
attack.
plaque. And Paulina had posted, Rick was at home recuperating very well after surgery. Our two sons and I were making sure he was comfortable, ordering food, watching TV. I found him still asleep when bringing him his Sunday morning coffee, touched his cheek to rouse him. It was then I realized that during the night he had peacefully passed on.
Wow.
Wow, that's sad.
That's very sad. And that,
So she was with him.
She was with him. That was good.
That's first the fans that
Yeah.
thinking like you were talking. It's like they were still on good terms. She
well,
was
and
helping him.
of course, right away when I think of the Cars, I saw the Cars perform live in 1978. They played the Music Hall, and their first album had just come out, which was just called The Cars. It was self-titled, and that album, I don't know if you guys ever heard the whole album.
Yes.
It had like 4 hit singles, but every single song on that album was amazing. Every one of them could have been a hit. And it was produced by the guy that used to produce Queen, Roy Thomas Baker, so they had a really, hotshot producer. That band was so tight, and Ric Ocasek and a guy named Benjamin Orr, who was the bass player, Benjamin and Rick were the 2 co-lead singers. They both sang songs. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Orr actually sang, I think, the majority of the hits and co-wrote, and Ric Ocasek co-wrote. And what's sad is Benjamin Orr, I don't know if people realize this, but we lost him in the year 2000. He died of pancreatic cancer at age 53.
Oh my
and that
gosh,
was in
yeah.
2000. And Benjamin Orr was a hell of a musician, and he had a solo album, had a song called Stay the Night, which was a huge
Yes.
top 40 hit. And so in his own right, Benjamin Orr was a fantastic. But see, that was the days before social media.
Yeah.
So, if you were in a band and you died in the year 2000, unless you were like John Lennon or some huge name, Benjamin Orr's death sort of just, kind of just
true. It is
you know what I
true.
mean?
Unless you were going to make the evening news,
Right.
Yeah. Kind of didn't.
Exactly.
it didn't really resonate, and all of a sudden people kind of you found out by osmosis almost that what
Exactly.
Wait, when did he die? Yeah.
And they racked up, the Cars as a group racked up 17 hit singles, 7 albums, and just hit after hit after hit. They did disband in 1988, but then what happened was they did a through the 90s they would kind of like a few of them would get together and play. They did a documentary on the band just about a year before Benjamin Orr died.
Oh, thank God.
And if you get a chance to catch that documentary, I do not remember the name, but you can just Google it. But there was a documentary about the Cars that's a very, very good. And then, they were inducted into the Hall of Fame last year.
Yes, last year.
2018, and all the surviving members played. And the bass player from the band Weezer filled in for Benjamin Orr.
That's right. I do remember that.
So he played, and so they performed like 4 songs at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction last year. At least Ric Ocasek got to live to see that, his recognized in the Hall of Fame. But 2 sad losses in the world of music. It's just really kind of sad.
Yeah, I saw one of the posts and kind of morbid humor, but everybody was asking, has anybody seen Rick Springfield lately? I
Better heads up.
was like, guys,
Listen.
come on.
Heads up, yo.
You know who I cannot believe is still alive, and not this, David Crosby. So David, this guy
He is?
yeah. No, there was just a documentary.
Wait a minute.
There was just a documentary about him that came out called David Crosby, Remember My Name, and I just watched it at Film Streams like 2 weeks ago.
I've heard of that.
First of all, everybody hates this guy because he's just a nasty son of a bitch. His band members won't even talk to him. Graham Nash,
Really?
Neil Young, Stephen Stills, none of them even talked to the guy. They wouldn't even talk to him for the documentary. They wouldn't talk to the filmmaker because they hate him so much because he's an ass. And he admits that he's an ass. But here's the thing. This guy has been drug-addled and an alcoholic his entire life. I think maybe he's clean now. I don't know for sure.
Unbelievably successful. I mean, creative.
Oh, amazing. And his voice, he's still got the voice. He has to tour just to pay the rent. Wow. I mean, this is a guy who was with some of the biggest bands, the Byrds, Crosby, Stills, Nash. Was he in Buffalo Springfield? He might have been.
I was just looking here to see who else. And I just found that documentary you're talking about, too.
And it's a fascinating documentary, but this guy's had 3 heart attacks. He's had 8 stents in his heart. They can't put any more stents in.
Right.
The most you can have is 8.
Oh my
He
God.
has had he had to have his liver what do you call it? A liver transplant because his liver was shot. So he had a liver transplant a few years ago. And he even admits in this documentary, he's like, I'm on borrowed time. I mean, any day, I'm done.
Did he was the father of, is it Melissa Etheridge's?
Melissa Etheridge's kid, yeah.
Kid, right?
Yep. Yeah, he was the
She's
biological father.
So is she like the only person that liked him, or what?
Well, she
was
might
hoping-
even hate him out. I don't know.
I think it was. It wasn't like actual. Like it
no,
was like
it wasn't.
Donated.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
Because it was
she
her,
didn't-
and she was with what was her name? Was it Julie Cypher?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was her partner.
Her partner.
At the
Yeah, that's
time.
right.
And they chose him to be the father. They
Yeah.
chose, and I'm like,
Like, okie dokie.
that gene's in there, just
Yeah.
telling you.
So, again, but again, here's a guy that has abused his body his entire life.
Oh, we were talking about
and
that.
he's still breathing.
About other people in our lives, but
Right.
just in general, that you see the Rolling Stones are a great example of that.
Or you see a kid, 18, 19 years old, one night out does some stupid stuff, has a couple beers, maybe takes a pill or something he shouldn't, and heart attack done.
Exactly.
And then people that are literally been doing that their entire life and should have died 50 times,
Right.
and they're like, what? Hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I'm fine.
There
Let's
was
get it.
there was a great picture online a few months ago with Keith Richards and his
Yeah.
two daughters. Did you see that?
No.
And
You keep
somebody
making me Google. I hate
somebody
you. Hold on.
no. What was so funny? It literally was. It was Keith Richards and his daughters. I think they're in their 20s or 30s. And somebody
He's
posted,
probably got some that's 4 or 5 too.
somebody posted a caption underneath that said, "This was Keith Richards and his two daughters out discussing what he's going to do with their money when they die."
No,
That's funny.
that's hilarious. Oh my God, there's
That is funny.
Is that it? There
I
it
think
is.
that's it.
There's the photo right there. Keith Richards and his daughters. Yep.
He's going to do with their money when they die.
We always said when Armageddon happens, all that'll be alive are cockroaches and Keith Richards. That's it.
Keith Richards and Mick Jagger.
But you
just-
got to give the Rolling Stones credit, don't you? I mean,
How can this still be? How can that still be?
Pickled. Everything's
Pickled.
pickled.
is that
Right?
it?
Everything's pickled.
Maybe they actually
Preserved.
died like 12 years ago, but nobody told them.
Perfectly
maybe.
preserved. They found the right combination, apparently. The
And-
fountain of youth. Well, not youth, but they found
Fountain
it
of-
late.
they found a
found
fountain.
it too late.
Yeah.
But
I was having
found it.
I was having a discussion online the other day about bands. I mean, literally every major rock band has lost a member.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were trying to name how many rock bands that are still around today still have the original members. And
They're intact.
I don't. Aerosmith? Did they lose anybody? I can't
I
remember.
don't know. I don't think anybody's passed away. They may have dropped off. I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't voluntarily leave. Let's
Yeah.
just say
Yeah.
that weren't.
Because somebody was saying,
Yeah.
well, the Rolling Stones are intact. I said, no, because they lost Brian Jones back in 1970. I think he drowned in his swimming pool. He
Isn't
was
that some- yeah,
pretty
that is
drug-addled
true.
at
And I
the
think
time.
U2 still all together.
U2.
As far as I don't think anybody has died,
Died.
or
Right.
left. I don't believe.
Yeah, Cheap Trick for years, but their drummer's still alive. He just left the band. So, I mean, but, you know,
Yeah.
it's very rare to see any band today that's been around for a while.
Any of them that lived through the 70s,
Yeah,
probably 70s into the 80s,
right.
that are still here.
Exactly.
It's a miracle.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, on like 8 different miracles.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the average person was doing things they shouldn't be doing, but then you go to that level,
Right.
and they're given things that they shouldn't be doing. They didn't
Yeah.
have to even try.
Right.
It
was
is
just bad.
interesting to see as the older we get, to see our rock artist idols, in their
Yeah.
70s and 80s.
And then passing away. It's really and I'm 45, but you're
Right.
seeing these people that I remember when I was a kid, and they're like getting to that point, and they're checking out. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I mean, how sad is it going to be when Paul McCartney dies? I mean, here's a guy who still performs 100 dates a year, if not more. He looks great. His band is great.
Why does he perform because he truly loves just
Oh, yeah.
performing?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
he doesn't need to.
No. He's a
I
billionaire.
mean, you have to wonder about anybody. Once you reach a certain age, I guess you still want to do stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because what else is McCartney going to do?
That's
Once
right.
you become that rich, the money means nothing. It's the adulation,
Did
Yeah.
you see?
Yeah.
adoration,
Adoration,
Did
thing.
you? It was. I'm not a huge Paul McCartney fan, but I for some reason I'm just not.
Mm-hmm.
And Stern, I think it was this week or end of last week. Stern had James Corden on. Did you see the carpool karaoke with James Corden
Yes,
and Paul McCartney?
and Paul McCartney.
Not
Now,
see that.
now, and then James talking to Stern, because Stern is the best interview in the business.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic.
Yeah.
And Corden was on his show and talked about that experience and the story that he told about his dad passing away, loving Paul McCartney. The story is just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it and how much that meant to him doing that.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, that, McCartney just, everybody has memories of the Beatles,
So-
whether you're, 80 years old or whether you're
Paul
18.
McCartney's older than Mick Jagger.
How old is McCartney?
I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, really?
Just by a year,
77?
year and a half. 77 and 76 is what they are right now.
Really? Wow. Can you believe that? And he's still going strong.
That's crazy.
And then seriously,
Yeah.
to look at the two of them side by side,
Right.
Yeah.
you certainly wouldn't guess.
No, you would not.
But
you got to hand it to these guys when they're up on stage, and when you
Mick
see
Jagger,
Mick Jagger,
I just recently saw some footage of one of their shows, and he is running across that stage, still doing all the jumping around and everything else that I would not do.
No, not even 20 years ago.
right.
He's still putting on a huge show.
Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, how old is he now? He's got to be 70, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got to be, doesn't he?
And he's another one you see up on stage, and he's just like Jagger and these guys.
He fascinates me. Steven Tyler does.
He's amazing. That band is amazing. That's another band that shouldn't be alive because they were so drug-addled in the 70s. And that band all went to rehab together. I don't know if you heard the story about Aerosmith.
Did not hear that.
They were all literally about to die.
Yeah,
71.
71.
He's 71 years old.
Yeah.
And that whole band in fact, they had to fire a band member because the band member wouldn't give up drugs, and he was bringing drugs backstage and his drug friends, and they said, "You're gone, man. You're gone." Because
We can't do this.
We can't do this. They would not be around today.
Yeah, they'd be done.
They'd be done.
If they hadn't changed their way. They're just looking for a couple others here. Joe Perry, 69. Mm-hmm. Eddie Van Halen, 64.
He's in his So all the Van Halen guys, they're a little younger.
A little
'Cause
bit
they
younger.
hit in the late 70s, early 80s.
Keith
right?
Richards, 75. Alice Cooper,
How old's Cooper?
71.
Really?
Fascinating.
He's still
man.
going strong.
Fascinating guy. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you mentioned Van Halen, and I know there was talk about them all getting back together. And to me, I would only go see Van Halen if David Lee Roth was singing and everybody was back. Because
Right.
I'm sorry, no offense against Sammy Hagar and who's the schmuck from Extreme that was their singer for a couple of years.
For
I'm
a
sorry.
Heartbeat, yeah.
Give me, listen. You can love or hate David Lee Roth. I don't care. But he was
it.
Van Halen.
He was the face of the band.
He
yeah.
was the face.
Yeah.
And, I was listening to some of his stuff coming back from Kansas City, both Van Halen and solo. And that guy, literally, he just got a
Crazy.
huge Vegas gig, by the way.
Good for him.
I think
Yeah.
that everybody should
the way to
that
do
has
it.
any status at all should do Vegas gigs all the time, and not touring maybe,
Yeah.
but just do like once
them
a
come to you.
right, one weekend every 2 months where you have like 8 shows in a weekend and just sell it, and then you don't have to tour.
You know what would be a great April Fool's Day joke?
Here we
No,
go.
seriously. You go to a band like Van Halen, they don't really like each other. But you go to them and you say, okay, here's the deal. Next April Fool's Day joke, talk to some bar and tell them that this Van Halen tribute band is going to play on April 1st of 2020.
Oh, my God.
And then you guys show up.
That would be awesome.
Nobody knows it. Everybody just thinks they're coming to a tribute band.
Yeah.
And you 4 guys show the hell up and play. Would that not be the best April Fool's Day
I
joke?
think it'd be-
Seriously.
That would be the best.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I hate April Fool's jokes. I hate
I
pranks.
love them, man.
That would be a good result because then everybody there, the joke's on the audience because they bought tickets thinking
Yeah.
they're coming to a tribute band.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, you get rewarded.
That would be
be
awesome.
cool.
Exactly.
That would be cool. I could go for that.
So maybe somebody plant a bug in some band's ear that's what they need to do for April Fool's
Trying to
Day.
get this going,
Yeah.
man. Can we get something going there? And now you got me all fascinated looking at ages of how old people are that are in the in that range, those kind of band members.
Yeah.
Which actually,
And I like the artists that age and they just age. They don't
Yeah.
like Madonna. On the other hand, she's got a scrunchiest
She's
skin.
Portuguese
I mean,
now,
I don't know what
Isn't
she
she
is.
Portuguese now?
Yeah, she
Madonna?
Portuguese. Yeah, it's just like, man, you just gotta just age.
Yeah.
And Tyler looks good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, she looks fantastic.
Stop it. Stop it. He's,
Was that
he
Liv,
brought-
was
did
that
he-
Liv Tyler or Steven Tyler?
Did he not? Did he bring that? Did he start that? I mean,
Maybe.
seriously, the androgynous
don't
type.
know.
You
He
know
might
what I
have,
mean,
yeah,
as
yeah.
far as the big hair bands when
Could be.
before the '80s with the hair bands. You
he's
had
probably
Steven
him,
Tyler.
Warrant, and all those guys.
Oh
I'm sure.
yeah, Warrant.
Warren.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Warrant.
Love it. That's
You know who's
that's
not-
your go-to. I like that.
You know who's not doing too well?
What's that?
Brian Wilson.
Really?
He's still out there doing solo shows with his band. He's no longer part of the Beach Boys. They, the 2 remaining Beach Boys Mike Love and Bruce Johnson do their own thing. Brian does his own thing, but the people that saw him, he had to take some time off in the summer because of some mental issues again.
Yeah, right.
And he came back and started performing, but now he's in a wheelchair. He
says about 76.
Is he?
Yeah.
His voice has always been a little straggling.
take.
Now it's not good at all. So that poor guy, sadly, I think we're going to see him.
The end.
He might be near the end, sadly, because I'm a huge Beach Boys fan.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Who plays the drums for Beach Boys now?
Now, John Cowsill.
Is it Jesse?
John,
Oh, it's not
John
Stamos?
Cowsill. John Stamos used to fill in occasionally. And matter of fact, when they played Omaha, when we brought them in for Les Fest 2013, Stamos came in and played drums.
I remember seeing that online, yeah.
Yeah, but John Cowsill of the band, the 60s band, the Cowsills.
Okay.
Cowsill plays drums
Oh
for
my
the
God.
Beach and
cool.
has for several years, like 20 years.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Anyway, so the moral of the story here, appreciate our artists while
That
we
is
have
so
them.
true. That
This
is so
the
true.
truth. And you know what? Never a better time to be able to do that either, because everything's fully accessible to everybody.
Right.
You can listen to what you want when you want.
I only hope, I'm going to leave you with this parting thought.
Okay.
I only hope that both Eddie Money and Ric Ocasek, before they died, got to have a chocolate malt with vanilla ice cream. That's all I can. That's all I hope for. Please, God, I hope they had that.
And on that note,
Stibbs, thanks.
Tip your waiter.
Where can people find you online? The Box Officer?
No, actually, on the spot production, on the spot radio.com is my website. And I just
We'll have you in again.
we'll talk next time. We
love
should
it.
talk about movies because there's so many good movies
Yes!
coming. Oh my gosh, you guys. So many good movies coming out in November, December, even October.
Let's have you back in the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
talk
do
about
that.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank
Go
you.
to KuglerVision.com. Make sure you go to KuglerVision.com, and they're a supporter. Pat, they're a supporter of our podcast.
they
Did
are.
you know
They've
that?
been supporting our podcast for
Thank
quite a
you,
while.
Kugler. That's
Right?
right.
Both Dr. Lance Kugler and Dr. Sunston, and we've had them both in, got a chance to do a little getting to know you session, want to have them back in again. But if you're thinking about ditching the glasses or ditching the contacts, get online at KuglerVision.com and you go to their consultation page, and there's a calendar. Pick the day, pick the time. Go in and get your eyes tested by the best. No doubt about it, the number one provider of LASIK procedures in the state, and they're phenomenal, just eye doctors in general. You can find out exactly where you are right now and then find out what your options are.
And you get a procedure, they're going to knock $500 off if you use the Pat and JT 2019 promo code. Pat and JT 2019 and $500 credit towards any procedure that you qualify for.
As a nice little thank you
Yep,
for
that's
supporting our podcast. Just
Yep.
because you're there and you subscribe, you listen, you rate, you review, and we really appreciate it.
We do. Thank you guys for listening.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Parkville Media Production.